Hi everyone, it's Sunday. I hope you're having a chilled day. Today I'm going to be talking about 10 ways to cover up a murder. Now, I have to say, if I'm a suspect in anything, my Google searches are going to be sus AF. While researching a different video, I came across this presentation, 10 ways to cover up a murder. It's very interesting. There's some interesting statistics there. I'm not convinced all the advice is really great, to be honest, but we look at that together. It's slightly tongue-in-cheek, so, this isn't fact. This isn't my advice to you on how to cover up a murder. My advice to you is don't murder. I hope that's obvious. So it's provided by topcriminaljusticeschools.net, and I'm going to look at it as if they've got the right guy behind bars. I will say at the moment, if I were on a jury and we've pretty much been given all the facts, I could not convict him right now. There's a trial to come. We don't know what's going to unfold. So let's look at this as if they've got the right guy. Now, bearing in mind Bryan's criminology experience, his level of study, he's going to be far more advanced than what we're looking at here. So anyway, let's have a look through and see what they say. How to commit the perfect murder? I'm not so sure. So it says here, maybe you've been watching too many murder dramas, maybe you admire mastermind serial killers, whatever your reason. You want to know how to get away with murder, and when you're done here, you may be able to do just that. So the first tip they give is DNA. It's the surest way to get caught. So I think that's a very fair point. And if it is Bryan and, that he did drop that knife sheath and he left a speck of DNA on it, then, it certainly helped him get caught, didn't it? Do not leave any DNA behind. Commit your crime in a place that is likely to have a lot of DNA from strangers. The oxygen-producing oxygen bleach detergents are best. So do not leave any DNA behind. So if there is only that one speck of DNA and it was Bryan, then obviously he left some DNA behind. Big mistake. No other DNA as far as we know. We've got 3 unidentified male DNAs that were not tested. According to Bill Thompson, they weren't eligible for, was it CODIS? I'm sorry, don't quote me word for word, but he did state in the hearing yesterday that these 3 male DNAs were not eligible for testing. Now, I don't get that. Maybe that DNA was Bryan's, I'm not sure. However, had someone else left DNA behind? Was it Bryan's? Was it a party goer? Either way, it should have been tested. Now, this one's interesting because I had a commenter asking me about oxygen-producing bleach, or bleach that doesn't behave the same way as your standard bleach that would discolour everything. It is out there, but I still think that whatever product you use, it doesn't mean you're going to cover every area where there would be DNA. Now, there are also reports that this oxygen-producing bleach does leave white residue as well. It might not do that harsh discoloration, but I really do think that law enforcement would be able to smell a cleanup, literally and visibly. They'd see traces of a thorough clean. Whatever bleach you use doesn't mean you're going to get every skin cell, dog hair, victim hair. The fact there's nothing is still very sus to me, but there are these oxygen-producing products out there. Relationship. The large number of crimes committed are committed by someone close to the victim. Now, these statistics are very interesting. 24.2% of victims were slain by family members. 53.8% were killed by someone they knew, and 34.6% were murdered by their husbands or boyfriends. Nowhere in that pie chart is there random, someone you don't know. Obviously, these sort of blend into one. If it's your boyfriend, you know them, or it's if it's your sister, you know them and they're a family member. So, but yeah, it says here, pick someone at random. If it's Bryan, to me, that is someone random. He picked someone random. We don't know motive. We haven't got a motive. But I find this pie chart really interesting. And I still think that it's much more likely that the victims knew their killer. But that is just my opinion. Proximity, where am I? Commit the crime in another town. If it was Bryan, yep, tick that box. Don't be on the road for hours before the crime, as you may become tired. Now, he was on the road, if it was Bryan, for quite some time before the crime, but not long enough to get tired. And as far as we know, he's an insomniac, so I don't think that would apply. Don't travel so far that you can be connected because you took a trip. Just far enough that you are outside of the main area of interest to the police. Okay, well, that is really interesting because, you know, what they're saying is if you live in Texas and you want to kill someone in Las Vegas, don't do that because they'll say, why did this guy travel to Vegas? But if you committed a crime from Pullman, Washington, you're from there, you're living there, and you travel to the next town, Moscow, far enough that you're outside of the main area of interest to the police? I'm not convinced. I don't think that Pullman, Washington was far enough away. But it was committed in another town. So don't be in the area when the big investigation begins. Now, I don't get that advice. Does it mean the area where the crime was committed? As in, don't revisit your crime scene, as it were? Or does it mean move away? I think it means don't revisit your crime scene. Don't be seen in that exact area. Well, we do have that Bryan's phone didn't ping in the area afterwards. Okay, just leaving that there. Choose a good area without a lot of traffic. Well, it goes on to talk about the time of the crime, and you're not going to get a lot of traffic in the early hours of the morning. There would be footfall in a party area, but again at 4 a.m. that will have slowed down. So I'd say, yeah, chance you're not going to be seen at that time. But if you look at the King Road residence, you had all the cars in front of the house, and I'm fairly convinced there would have been lights on, especially if Zana received her DoorDash 5 minutes earlier. Type of crime. Choose your crime carefully. I thought we were talking about murder here, but okay. Make sure it's something that can be done day or night. Odd advice. Don't quite get that. But let's look at this pie chart. 14,299 murders in 2008. So obviously this is old advice. They've probably moved on with their advice from this. But let's look at these statistics for 2008. 66.3% were from guns, 7% used their hands, 4% from blunt objects, and 14% from stabbing. So 39.6% were shootings in the US. So this must be a worldwide murder statistic chart if they've quoted US separately. So we can see anyway that guns are by far the more popular choice. And I think I will find that statistic for you. I think that is still the case today. So stabbing is fairly low. Evidence. This is where most criminals get caught because it's linked to DNA. So do not take anything from the body. We do not know that if anything was taken from the body. We had that ID in a glove. That doesn't appear to be linked actually to anyone in the 1122 King Road. We don't know what that ID was. We don't know if something was taken from the body and is hidden elsewhere. But as far as we know, nothing has been found. Leave the body there. Do not touch the body at all. Do not move the body and do not try to hide the body. I would say all of those were ticked, but we don't know if there was staging or if anything else went on. But my guess at the moment. My assumption is that all of those can be ticked. Now, cleanup is interesting. There's many people who believe that there was a cleanup within the house, which, there's an 8-hour delay calling 911. We don't know. Was there a cleanup? I find it odd. There's a latent footprint. I've done a video on that. It was the first one I ever did. But, I don't think there was a cleanup inside the house, but clean up in the car, clean up in the apartment. If Bryan did it, he will have cleaned up. But I question, was there a witness that saw him cleaning his car in Pullman? He didn't have a garage. He didn't have anywhere to put his car. So did nobody see him, bleaching? Another car, allegedly, was seen being bleached just after, but there are absolutely no reports of any of the car being cleaned up, or, we've got a neighbour who says he always did his cleaning in the middle of the night. And as far as dumping the trash in the Pennsylvania parents' home, we've got absolutely no information as to what he was putting in the trash. And I truly believe if it was something that was incriminating, it would have been in the PCA, but that's just my opinion. Wear the proper gear. Now, as far as we know, clad in black, had a mask on that showed eyes, eyebrows. We don't know if the purple gloves, I think, to me, it's obvious they would have worn gloves, but we don't know what other gear. I think if he was in one of these all-in-one body suits and had booties on, wouldn't Dylan have noticed that, if we are to believe her story? Timing. Timing is everything. The best time to commit a crime is in the very early hours of the day when most people are asleep, okay? We can tick that. That was the assumption. However, I do think that lights would have been on. I think Xana certainly would have been moving around. There were cars out front. I'm not convinced that there wasn't movement in the house at the time. But there we are. It was early hours of the morning. This is odd. Look like you are not out of place on the street. So I think if you're walking around with your gear on, you're going to look out of place on the street. If you're walking around alone at that time of the morning, you're going to look out of place on the street. If you're driving a white Elantra round and round cameras, that's going to look out of place. So, yeah, that's a bit odd, that one. I'm not ticking it. Tools. How are you going to do it and what will you need? Thick gloves. Very possible. Buy your tools at least a month before committing the crime, pay in cash and destroy any receipts or shopping bags. After the crime is committed, destroy everything you bought as quickly as you can. So if it was Bryan, thick gloves, I think someone would have worn thick gloves or 2 pairs of gloves. We don't know if tools were bought. We don't know if cash was paid for. They did take some receipts, but we don't know how relevant they are. So I'm going to move on from there. Destroy everything you bought as quickly as you can. Maybe he did drive and dump. We don't know. This I don't get at all. Do not use anything you own. Okay, get that. But do not buy brands you normally buy unless they are very generic brands. Surely if you buy something that you don't normally buy, that's more sus. So I'm moving on from that. That doesn't make sense to me at all. Oh, he suddenly bought oxygenated bleach. He doesn't normally buy that. I think if he bought standard bleach for nearly all of his adult life, that would be a lot less sus. I don't know about you. This one's interesting. Shop out of town in large department stores. Now, we know that Bryan allegedly answered the question, why did you go to Moscow? The shopping's better. Just going to leave that there. That's quite interesting. Alibi. It's good to have an alibi. Well, he's got something of an alibi. It's not going to be proven, I don't think. I think, there is a good video by True Crime Rocket Scientist. He says it's a cleverer alibi than you think because he's admitted to driving around. Now, if the defence can prove that he often drove around long before he got to Moscow, it's something he does, then it's quite a good alibi. So whether he's got a good one or not at the moment, remains to be seen. Stay in a hotel with no cameras. Sign up for an event to attend. Plan an out-of-town trip and book everything with your credit card. Okay, so what I think here is that they're saying, when you're planning to commit these murders, book a trip with your credit card out of town that might prove you were not in town. Okay, I get that advice. So stay in a hotel with no cameras. So it's saying stay in a hotel, don't stay at home. Not taking this advice, but I will say that it doesn't appear to me that Bryan's apartments, that whole complex, doesn't look like they have any cameras. They have security, but I have scoured every picture I can find. I've looked at Rory's video, Thou Shalt Not Kill True Crime, where he walks around there. I can't see any cameras. I see light fittings, but nothing. So did Bryan know that in advance? He wouldn't have had to have stayed in a hotel with no cameras because he knows there's none outside his home. In the early hours, travel to the place of your crime, commit it, and return. Again, odd advice. I don't think they're going to stay there, are they? They are actually going to travel to the place of the crime, commit it, and get out of there. And then return home the next day. I think, are they saying that, if you've booked a trip out of town or you stayed in your hotel, head home the next day? I personally think you'd be better off just committing the crime and going home again, especially if you've got no cameras outside your apartment. Don't forget, guys, I am looking at this as if we're Bryan. The getaway, you're almost in the clear. The best mode of transport is by bike. This will enable you to get off the road if you need and to travel quickly. You do not want to be seen on the street walking. Remember, the Zodiac nearly got caught this way. Okay, well, I think I would rather walk and stay in the shadows than drive around in my white Elantra past many cameras. So I personally think a criminology student would not take his car with his cell. I don't buy that. I would rather walk or maybe a bike. But I think you're not going to fit in, are you, at 4 a.m? If someone drives past you, I think someone will say, well, actually, you know what? I saw a bike at this time. And then what do you do with your bike? If you've got a bike, they go, well, actually, yeah, he's got a bike. I saw him coming back on this road at 4:45 in the morning or whatever, on his bike. How sus is that? So, yeah, mode of transport, tricky one. Okay, fit in with your surroundings. Well, that goes against walking, in my opinion. I think you're going to be much more disguised if you're walking. You can hide in shadows. If you're dressed in black at night, you're going to be less likely to be seen than if you're driving around in your Elantra. Have a solid story. Well, Bryan doesn't have a solid story as far as we know. We don't know what anyone's going to bring up in trial, but as far as we know, he's just driving around town in the early hours of the morning. Aftermath, what happened? Do not watch the television and avoid the papers for at least a month. The police can use these as tools to try to psych you out. Right, well, again, old advice. If you always watch the television and buy papers and it's part of your routine that you've been doing for years, you're going to look a lot more sus if you suddenly stop. Just my opinion. So I wouldn't take that advice if I were planning to kill someone, which I'm not, and neither are you. Continue about your everyday life. Well, we know that Bryan did do that. He carried on. He went to his class. He had his hair cut. He went to the doctors. We have got to say that if it was Bryan, he continued about his everyday life. This one's interesting. If you do get arrested, do not speak. So we can tick that box for Bryan as well. He has said next to nothing. Do not brag about your crime to anyone. Don't tell a soul. Well, that goes without saying. The police need evidence to convict you. If you have done the job right, there won't be any. Provided by topcriminaljusticeschools.net And there are your sources. We've got 2.fbi.gov, nationmaster.com, infoplease.com, listverse.com. Tips to commit the perfect crime, etc., etc. So there we have it. There's our presentation. What do you think? Do you think it's Bryan? Some of those we can tick, but I will state that there are things he's done, and I will do that in a different video, that don't make sense for a criminology student to me. But I thought that was quite an interesting read. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and there will be a Spooky Sunday later tonight. Take care. Bye.